leadership journey to the next level? On the leadership platform TLP, we don't just talk about leadership, we live it. This year, we are bringing you cutting-edge insights, transformative tools, and real-world strategies to help you lead with confidence, purpose, and impact. This year, we have 4 seasons with 50 episodes. We will dive into themes such as leading self, leading others, and leading institutions. We bring you Leaders Are Readers. This monthly session focuses on book reviews, discussions, encouraging all participants to read along with selected books on personal leadership and professional leadership. We also have a time with the CEO. In this segment, we dive into the stories of prominent CEOs who share their insights, lessons learned throughout their leadership journey. We also bring you extraordinary leadership stories, highlighting individuals in our societies who are doing extraordinary things. This segment inspires viewers with real-life examples of leadership in action. We will bring you some brilliant minds, courageous leaders changing the narrative of Africa. We also bring you, finally, the expert-led sessions, which cover a wide range of leadership and personal development topics, providing practical guidance and actionable strategies for personal and professional development. The leadership platform is your go-to space for personal growth, professional breakthroughs, and meaningful connections. I am Joy Bunsu-Schmutz, co-host on TLP, and I will see you every Saturday, 7 p.m. GMT, live on YouTube and Facebook.
Hello, hello, hello. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning from wherever you're joining us. And here we are again with the 200th episode of the Leadership Platform. So we just want to celebrate that. And in celebrating that, we also want to celebrate all women. Today is the 8th of March, a day that we have dedicated worldwide to celebrate all women. So to my fellow women on the platform and those who are not even here, every woman on this continent, as well as the whole world, we want to say Happy Women's Day. We cherish what you're doing and we want to acknowledge you for today. And in this using this as a segue, we have a woman who has been leading an extraordinary life and impacting her world. And what a better day to showcase her today. But before we do that, let's see who is in the house. Please put your name and where you're joining us from in the chat. Before I do that, I just want to say my name is Sarah Jessie Appiah, and I'm joining you from Geneva, Switzerland. Great. So now let's see who is in the house. I have a very great woman who has been following us closely and always a regular participant on our platform, Olivia Okine. Hooray! Congratulations, CTL and team. Thank you, Olivia, and wonderful Women's Day to you. We always appreciate your comments, your presence, always signing in and ensuring that you say hello to each and every one of us. And then we have Sapa Yahaya from the village of home, Gomwa Fete. Yes, great that we have you also online. So please keep your sign-in coming up. So let's see what we have as far as I'm just reading the comments coming in. Richard Chum joining from Nkwetia Kwewu. Thank you so much. And Olivia again. Yes, yes, yes. Gorgeous, precious, beautiful, worldwide family. Renaissance International Women's Day. Thank you, Olivia, for that, celebrating our women on planet Earth. Great. So let's see what we have as far as announcements are concerned. Apart from the growth journey that has taken place, we will just play a short video as to what we are going to listen to today. So I'll have our team in the background to play that video. Thank you. As we're getting ready, Tufik Win Basil Salifu is here from Amasaman. Thank you. Franklin Obeng is here. Janet Ekuyayi is here. Sir Confidence Akaponi is here. George Gather is here. Wow, so many of you on the call. Thank you so much for really being active participants and signing up. Great, so let's have the video. Okay, it looks as if the video is not yet ready. So let me just introduce our lady who is trying to come online. We have a little bit of a challenge, but before I finish reading out her profile, definitely she'll be here with us. Okay, let's see. Her name, as we can see on the flyers, is Penelope Brooke Thompson. Penelope, as you can see, is going to talk to us about effective leadership, how you can impact your world from wherever you find yourself, especially finding your purpose. So if I go through the profile that we posted for all of us, the quote that we had was, let me read it, is by Peter Drucker. Said, effective leadership is not making speeches or being liked. Leadership is defined by results, not attributes. And this is a person who really has proven results. She did not speak too much, but she translated her purpose, her why, into actions, which she will share with us as soon as she comes online. So let's just have a quick advert and then we can get into our time with Penelope.
I am winning on all fronts limitlessly.
I have made tremendous improvement at work through delegating and empowering teams.
We started with the law of intentionality, which specifically makes it clear that growth cannot just happen. You have to be intentional about your growth.
CTO Africa Leadership brings you the Grow Journey, a series of masterclasses based on John C. Maxwell's book, The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. In this 10-week virtual growth accelerator, you will acquire the skills to thrive and flourish as you evolve into a more impactful and fulfilled individual. You will master the art of personal and professional development as you craft and execute your customized growth plan. Limited seats available. Register now for the next cohort.
Hey there, join the next cohort of CTO Ghana's growth journey.
The next cohort is coming on. Get involved and your life will never be the same.
Right. Thank you so much and welcome back. Now let's see whether our lady is in the house. Meanwhile, Conrad Kakraba has joined us and he is testifying to the fact that this lady is amazing and he cannot wait to listen to her story. And Fred Asari is joining us from the Village of Hope. So we have the Village of Hope in the house. Great. So without much further ado, our Lady of the Women's Day for Ghana is here on the leadership platform. Let me invite Penelope to join me on the screen. Great to have you, Penelope.
Thank you.
How are you today on International Women's Day?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you. How are you as well?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for making it to the leadership platform, and we are happy to have you.
Apologies, there's a bit of noise from my end because I'm using a generator.
Okay, we can understand, but we can hear you clearly. That's wonderful. So let's see who Penelope is. Penelope, let's really let our viewers know who you are. Your name is Penelope Brooke Thompson. So tell us how you grew up, where you grew up, and then we'll walk through your education. So let's start with that. Who is Penelope if I meet you in the street? How will you introduce yourself?
Thank you, and good evening to your lovely listeners. Uh, just a fun fact: Penelope actually is Greek, and it means faithful wife. There's a long story behind it, but the short version is that her husband, who was a king, went out for war for years, and she had so many other suitors come along the way, but then she waited for her husband. So Penelope, I am the founder and president of African Center for Technical Training, which we fondly call ACTT. I was born and raised in Amsterdam, um, and somewhere along the line, my family moved back to Ghana, and we first moved to Kumasi, um, in an area called Bremen, which is near Swami Magazine. So in that area is known for auto mechanics. Any Whether you have a bicycle or a car, or you can go there and then they will help you solve your problems. But then they were learning the job, the skill through the informal way, through local masters, right? Not a structured training program. At the time, I think that's when I started getting exposed to skills training, because typically a lot of the people who were living at Bremen would end up in the mechanic job, or they would sell, car parts. Yeah. So that's just a bit of my background. I have I'm from a pretty small but large family all the same. I have 5 brothers and 2 sisters, and I'm the first across.
Okay, so you're a family of 8, and you being I will say the leader of the
Yeah.
siblings. Yeah,
Yeah.
being the leader of the siblings. How was life for you coming from Europe and then coming to settle in Accra? No, sorry, not in Accra, in Kumasi. Yeah, in Kumasi. Yeah.
It was different. I mean, in Amsterdam, I had a bit more of a structured upbringing because my mother was working multiple shifts. So there was a time to wake up, make breakfast, walk to school, come back home, eat, take calls for her, and then go to sleep at a particular time. So it was very structured. Maybe on the weekend we'll see other family members. But in Ghana, I lived directly with my grandmother, so she allowed me to explore a bit more. So our church was right behind our house, the Methodist church. So I was in the girls' brigade. I was playing musical instruments. I was doing the choreography, choir, anything you can think of, I did as part of the church. And my pastor also lived directly opposite our house. So it was a very interesting upbringing, very different from more of community than I was used to back in Amsterdam. If there was an issue, neighbors could talk about it too. Had a bit more friends. Yeah, but I think coming to Ghana, allowed me to open up more to, let's say, more family, more friends, more of community. Yeah.
Okay, so Ghana provided you with a social part of life that you were missing out in Europe. Great. So you came to Ghana. Which school did you attend? And how did you end up before starting your business? Take us through that.
So in Ghana, in Kumasi, I was in a school called Inshayeso International School. It's right opposite the Kumasi Golf Course.
Mm-hmm.
They really took care of me because I remember they used to pick me up late from school, and even after school hours, the teacher would wait till my driver came. Yeah, so that was good. They really, really took care of me. I was also told I came to learn English in Ghana because in Amsterdam, my first language was Dutch, and at home, my parents spoke Tree. But then, so I got exposed to English when I started school here. So apparently, when I first came, I used to be quiet a lot in class until I picked up the English. So Shires International School. Then from there, I wrote BEC and I went to Holy Child School, Cape Coast. And Holy Child School, I studied general arts, economics, and French option. And then from there, I went to Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology to again study economics. And then I did my master's in finance at Coventry. And yeah, I think where this all started really is when I was in school, I realized that almost everything at the university, everything we were studying was very theoretical. So even my friends who were studying electrical engineering, they had gone through years in the program and they couldn't, identify a physical circuit. They have studied in the books and all, but not like physically. So thinking about that, I also used to see like a car at the mechanical engineering department, but they weren't allowed to like touch it. It was almost like it was just a statue there. And at the time when my mom had moved back to Ghana from Amsterdam, she set up a school, Crest Junior High School, which she still runs to date in Kumasi, called Abraham Lincoln School, and she averages around 800 students a year.
Wow.
And yeah, it's impressive. So when she started making a bit of money from that, she started investing in real estate, so developing properties for rent and for sale. And that meant she was going to site a lot to interface with the local artisans. So comparing that to our experience in Amsterdam, she always used to come back complaining, and then she was very frustrated with the kind of quality of work that they were putting out. And the fact that they couldn't even realize when things were going wrong. They thought that's how it was done. So I decided I wanted to speak with the artisans, sort of try to understand how they get their training. And that's when I found out that most of them got it through the local master, who they have no way of also verifying how the master got the training. So the cycle was repeating itself. So maybe Mason will lay blocks and then the structure is, slanted, but he can't even tell. When you ask him, why did you do this? He says, oh, that's how my master told me to do it. But he doesn't understand why he's making the decisions he's making on site. So with that background and knowing that even at the university with all the resources, the training was primarily theoretical, I decided I wanted to do something about it. So this was way back in 2014. Okay. I decided I wanted to do something about it, both for my mother, people like my mother who were customers and, were paying for good work to be done, but weren't achieving the results that they expected. And on the other hand, for the artisan as well, because back in Amsterdam, they were paid extremely well. So I wanted to fix that issue to make sure that they are trained well and then they also get paid well so they can have a decent livelihood. Having said that, at that point, I was also heavily unemployed and looking for a job. Okay. I had to university and I was trying to figure out what the next phase of my life looked like. So I was applying for all kinds of jobs. I started off a bit more, I graduated in the top 1% of my class, so with a first class degree in economics.
Yeah.
So I started a bit more pompous, you know. I thought the top companies would want me. So I applied for like the Nestle, Unilever, MTN, Vodafone and Co. And nobody called me for an interview ever. Then I went a step down to banks. So I applied for banks. They were calling my colleagues who I was a teaching assistant. So they were calling my colleagues for aptitude tests, and I never got called ever. Then I went lower to like, in my opinion at the time, to like personal assistant, secretary, any kind of job I could lay my hands on Google, I would apply. And that is why I wasn't really getting any calls. But I had
How long did this job search take you? How long?
I think a year and a half.
Okay,
Uh,
18 months. Okay.
yeah. So in May 2015, I had applied to work at Ashesi. I saw a lecturer role. To be honest, I didn't even think I was there yet. So I saw a lecturer role and I applied for it. And then they invited me over for a teaching assistant role, where over there they call it like a faculty intern. So I applied in May, and one time in August, I got an email saying I should come for the interview. So I took a bus from Kumasi for the interview, and when I got to Accra, then I took a number of church-or, got to the Kwabinya Junction, then went up the hill with what we call drop-in, because that was the only way to go at the time. And I think the driver had very low fuel. So as soon as we climbed up the hill, the car wasn't moving anymore. I had to get down and walk to the interview. So I went for the interview. I got there slightly late, but I think the interview before mine had overrun a bit. So, you know, they were apologizing, put me in AC, and I settled a bit, and then we did the interview. And I think I knew there and then that I was going to get the job, because at that interview, when they had asked me, you know, what I thought my career would look like in the next 5 years, I had mentioned that I wanted to start the biggest technical school in Africa. Very bold, with not even one Ghana to my name. Not even one Ghana to my name. So, I mean, in a way, when you go for interview.
Hello. Is it me? No. Can you hear me, Gideon? Let me know whether you can hear me. I think. Oh, okay. You are back. You were frozen a little bit. Yes.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah. So in a way, in certain organizations and their culture, if they realize that you're not trying to stay for the long term, they'd probably not offer you the job. But I knew they were going to offer the job, so I got the offer, and then I moved to Accra to start a whole new life in my career. So I started my career teaching at Ashesi University, business-related courses. So it was competitive strategy, operations management, and leadership. I did that for a year and a half, and I got poached from there to work in technology. So from there, I moved to SoftTribe. I was a project manager, and we're doing projects, national scale projects. So one of the projects I worked on was on the electronic billing and payment system for Ghana Water, which now allows us to receive water bills by SMS and emails, and allows us to pay through mobile money. Before, you'd have to wait for a paper bill months later, and also physically walk to a pay point to make payment. But these two experiences at Shesi exposed me to a new, type of environment in terms of education. We had smaller class sizes. I knew every single student of mine by name. Was supposed to dedicate a certain number of hours on Fridays to contact hours, where people could come to me individually with their unique challenges. Whereas when I was at KNUST, nobody ever, I never had the opportunity to meet my lecturer one-on-one. I don't think anyone knew me by name until I graduated in the top, 1%. We were actively looking for internships for them. We were actually actively doing practice-oriented training. So business simulation games, they were setting up small businesses in the school, and they were encouraged to do things like that, which allowed them to be more confident as opposed to the kind of training that I received. And then working at SoftTribe made me realize how we can use technology to rapidly improve operations. And so we could run, bills for over 600,000 customers in a matter of about 3 hours and blast SMSs, whereas before it'll take them longer. So these experiences together, I went through managing construction company, managing technology companies, and eventually in 2022, I decided in March 2022. So exactly almost 3 years now, I decided that I was going to leave my job and focus on registering ACTT and building it full time. That's all I wanted to do. And yeah, here we are.
Okay, great. That's quite a journey. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. But let's backtrack a little bit. You did see the gap. You said in our educational system, the formal one or the public schools, I would get say, is mostly theory, right? And then in the marketplace, you saw that it was practical, but without theory. And therefore, you were going to be the bridge. You had this idea of becoming the bridge between that. And then you went on to Ashesi University and you saw how they did the practical and the theory, fusing it together. So, looking at that and your idea, what do you think propelled you to where you found yourself 3 years ago for setting up your company?
I think the biggest thing for me was going through unemployment. Like it's, you see, it's a very difficult thing for young people to deal with. And the average Ghanaian, I mean, I know I didn't receive much support from my parents. I don't think they understood what I was going through. So you probably rely on your mates more. And then, you know, at some point everyone is working. Well, not everyone, but maybe you're in a circle of say 6 and 4 of you are working. So even if you wanted to complain to someone, they have real work issues that they have to deal with, right? So it takes a toll on young people feeling like they can't contribute to society. The numbers are crazy when you think about it. Like the unemployment rate is very, very, very significant. So that was one for me. And then the second thing being, every single time that I engaged an artisan, I remember my water heater was leaking, and it's Ariston. Ariston is one of the good brands for water heater, sanitary.
Yeah.
And every time I'll call a plumber, different plumbers, and they'll say, "Oh, it's not a problem. That's how it is." There's no way that Ariston designed a water heater to leak. That just can't be possible. So one time I was taking a shower and the water heater just fell to the ground. It could have even hurt me. Imagine, like the electrical, everything came out and it just fell to the ground. Now, then I realized that the size of the water heater was too big for that one bedroom that I was using. Like it was too big. And then secondly, the installation, there was a problem with it. But everybody kept telling me, that's how it's done, that's how it's done. And now that I have a plumbing school, I know that there's a principle behind sizing water heater. There's a principle behind sizing a cistern, for example, what we call the poly tank. There's a principle behind the number of washrooms in a home. There's a principle behind every decision. So it can't just be that people just say that's how it was done. So those were the two main things for me. I remember when I was managing a construction company, my boss told me a story about him visiting site one time, and the mason had laid all 4 sides of the blocks. He kept going up, forgetting there has to be a door. So when they got to the site, he was in the middle and still laying up, and they asked him, "How do you intend to come out?" Which is crazy. So two main things: the skills gap, the issue there. Industry really needed the talent, right? Even now, they really need the talent, but they can't find the right trained person. And you realize that, you know, top oil and gas companies are importing welders from Italy and co into the country. And they're paying in dollars, they're giving them accommodation in prime Accra. Why can't we train these people here so that they receive this kind of, you know, decent incomes? So two main things: the unemployment issue and the skills gap. I decided it needed to be resolved.
Okay, but there's one interesting thing that you said about young people who are going through this unemployment system. I mean, it's a mental issue. How did you support yourself mentally? What did you do?
It's a good question. I think I had a good support system. I had two people in my life at the time who I used to bounce, everything off. So then they completely allowed me to complain, and there were times where it was really bad, where it could have turned into something else, but they completely allowed me to complain, to vent. I also leaned on my church community at the time a lot. And then one of my other friends, he always sent me job opportunities. I know even the Ashesi application came through him. So every single opportunity he saw that he thought was a fit, I applied for. It gets draining at some point because I even set up Google alerts. So any job that matches, the role that I'm looking for, I'll get an alert and I'll apply. You apply for hundreds of jobs and you don't get called, you tend to lose hope. But the point being that there was just too much in me, if you're able to graduate with a good grade, or even if it's an average grade, the fact that you're able to graduate after 4 years, it means there's something in you, and we have to be able to take advantage of that position. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So before we go on, I think your video is ready. We'll have Gideon play it, and then we'll come to you to really talk us through how you set it up and how things are and what will be your future plans. Okay, so let's take a break for you now, and I'll ask our technical department to play the video. Thank you.
Ours is a story of vision and heart, really, and maybe a few $1,000s. I identified 3 main problems, and in all 3 cases, I fit the typical demographic of the people we wanted to find new opportunities for. So 1, the problem of skills shortage. Growing up, my mother started a school, averaging around 650 students each year. And at some point, she started channeling the profits from the school into real estate, developing residential properties for rent and for sale. And so that meant she was going to site a lot, supervising work. And a lot of the time, she would come home visibly stressed because of the quality of work that the artisans put out, and of course, the nonchalant attitude in general that they had. And our background, just a bit of context, we lived in Amsterdam for a bit, so we were used to a certain quality of service. And at the time, say you booked a plumber, you would pay probably 30 guilders. This was before the euro. You pay probably 30 guilders just for booking, and every other hour that they came to site to do the work, you pay another 15 guilders or so. And so potentially a plumber doing just 2 gigs in a day would walk away with 100 guilders. Looking at how my mom was frustrated with the work, I remember immediately thinking, how can I solve this problem for her as a customer and for the artisan as well? The second problem being little access to world-class practice-oriented training. Engaging the artisans, I knew that they didn't have any access to quality training. There was a time I had a water leak problem. My water heater was leaking, and this is Ariston, which is a trusted brand. And the plumber was insisting that it's meant to leak, like it's normal, madam, with your sanity. And basically, one morning I was bathing. First of all, the position of the water heater to the bathtub was also a problem. And one day I was taking a shower and the water heater just fell to the ground and I almost got hit. And so one problem had been for a long time that this type of training had typically been left for the local master craftspersons to deliver. And so that meant we couldn't really manage the quality of training. And for me, I went to a public sector university, and even at that level, I had many friends who were studying for electrical engineering degrees who never got practice as part of their training. And so I knew that I needed to fix the soft skills element of the training and the practical components as well, so that they could perform peer standards and earn more money or earn better. And finally, the problem of high unemployment within our context. I really struggled with unemployment after my first degree. I applied for so many jobs and I never got called. But getting the opportunity to work at Ashesi gave me an out. My experience there introduced me to a new way of teaching and learning and culture in general. And I remember immediately thinking, how can I incorporate these new values that I had learned at Ashesi into the idea that I had for ACTT? And so at that point, I knew I was going to do this, no matter how long this takes. So as a customer who, face these issues with artisans over and over, and a citizen who loves my country and its beautiful people, I decided to take the plunge, and here we are.
Great, beautiful. So here we are. So tell us now how the business is going. How many students do you have? Here we are. Give us that story.
Okay, so in January 2022, we registered the business. At the time, it was just me. I left my job in March 2022, so I was the only employee. And then in August, I hired my first team member. A year later, we had officially launched the school. So in August 2023, we officially launched with our first program, which is plumbing systems design. And now we employ 25 people. And in terms of the trainees, because our programs are anywhere between 6 months to 18 months, we've had about 180 trainees come through the program. Our goal is, as I mentioned, I sort of mentioned earlier, is one, we want to provide alternative pathways for young people to succeed beyond your typical university degree. So it looks like for the average person, whether it's a student or a parent, a young person or a parent or a guardian, they think that the traditional university route is the way to go. But as the numbers will show, the unemployment rate is so serious, especially now with the free senior high school education, which has its nuances, but all in all, it has improved literacy and numeracy levels. But then it means about 500,000 young people will typically graduate from senior high school every year, and only 10% can get into the university because of capacity issues. So you can have money to pay fees, you can have good grades, but you may not be able to enter a university. That does not mean that your life has to terminate. Now, even for those who do enter the university as well, only about 10 to 20% will get jobs in the first 3 years. The rest of us have to figure out what's next for us. That's why some people end up getting a master's degree or in a PhD, and they keep stacking the degrees with no actual work experience. So our primary focus, one, is to help solve unemployment by providing alternative ways that people can earn a decent livelihood. And the second part is to be able to solve the skills gap. And in a way, they work hand in hand, because we always receive requests from industry, a long list of vacancies that they want to fill. So plumbers, electricians, carpenters, we don't even have the numbers to fill these openings yet. So that's our goal. And because that's our goal, all the programs that we do are demand driven. So development partners from World Bank, International Labour Organization, etc., have already established that construction, agriculture, and health could potentially provide hundreds of thousands of jobs for young people across the continent. And so when we scanned the training environment and we wanted to know where is the best place to make an impact, we decided to start with the construction related, which the first one was plumbing in 2023. And then last year we added woodwork and joinery, which most people know as carpentry. Eventually, we're going to have about 10 programs. Sometime this year in September, we're scaling to Kumasi with way more programs and hostel facilities, etc. So largely, that's how it's going. It's going well. We've had great impact stories so far from the few people we have trained. For example, in the middle, so one of our programs, the plumbing program, is for 6 months. By the fourth month, entering the fifth, they have to do an industry apprenticeship with companies that we have partnered with in construction, hospitality, and co. One of the gentlemen who joined our program, he initially used to hawk fun ice on the streets, and we spread our payments is flexible, so we spread the payment over a period. And during his internship, we took him to Safari Valley Resort. And before he went, he was actually wondering whether there would be work at a resort for a plumber. But not only are they maintaining the current systems, but they're also building a lot more cabins there. And it's completely eco-friendly. So, things that we may not even be teaching at this center, which may be like biodigesters, any other ecological systems that they have, they trained him on that as well. So it was supposed to be a 1-month internship. And by the end of the 1 month, they decided to keep him. And now he's a plumber there, moving from 0 salary to in excess of 2,000 cedis. So those are some of the impact stories of people who join the program with 0 experience, and by the time they get to the 5th month, they get employment. There were another group of 4 gentlemen as well that a construction company reached out to us for this talent, and now for them as well was during their internship. He immediately started paying them, and he kept all 4 of them, and now he even wants more. So those are some of the success stories for program, and for industry to already be hiring them. It only tells of how practical the program is, and how much effort that we've put into making sure that we achieve the desired results.
Great. So who are the students who come to you? Is it people who have finished their education degree, but you did mention this guy who was hawking on the street? What is the typical student profile that you do accept, and how much does it cost?
Okay, so the typical profile, to be honest, is very broad. Anywhere, in terms of age, anywhere between 16 to 45-year-old. You're welcome to join us. Sorry. In terms of educational background, the minimum requirements is a junior high school certificate.
Okay.
You have to have basic literacy and numeracy levels. And sometimes when we put that online, someone says, what has a plumber got to do with a certificate? That's because they're thinking about the typical local plumber who doesn't understand the decisions he's making on site. If you want to do well, you want to meet local standards and international standards, you have to have literacy and numeracy levels. There's standard calculation that you need to know. There's a way that there's a way that they slope the pipe. For example, waste pipe. When you use the washroom, the pipes that take the waste out, whether it's liquid or solid, the pipes that take the waste out, there's a specific slope that you have to use, because if it's too steep, then all the liquid moves and leaves the solid, then it chokes the pipe and it blocks it. And if it's not sloped either, then everything remains in the pipe and it still gets choked anyway. So there's a slope for it, right? But people think you just learn plumbing by following someone for a few times. So that's why we have the requirement of the junior high school certificate. In terms of the kind of people who come here, we have junior high school graduates, we have senior high school graduates, we have university graduates. We have currently people who are working in different industries right now. So for example, our first cohort, we had a software engineer, we had an HR manager, we had a law clerk, we had an insurance agent. There are so many people who are either looking for alternative sources of income or they are trying to pivot in their current careers. And then we have the typical artisan who has gone through the master training but wants to formalize within like a structured training program and understand the work that he's doing better. So anywhere 16 to 45-year-old, as long as you have a junior high school certificate, regardless of your background, your sex, your gender, you're welcome to join us. And the tuition is for currently the two program. Our tuition generally for the short programs is between, when I say short program, that's the 6 months. It's between 3,900 cedis to 5,000 cedis.
Okay.
And for the longer programs, the 18 months, that's 22,500 cedis. Now, we have flexible options. You can do morning, you can do afternoon, you can do evening, and you can do weekend. So those who are working, they opt for weekend. The weekend is Saturdays 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Sundays 12 p.m. to 5 p.m.
Okay.
Then we have morning, afternoon, evening, yes.
Perfect. What is the faculty like? How many instructors do you have? And do you teach yourself? I mean, you did economics and you're talking about plumbing and all that. Just give me an idea who the faculty is and how you yourself, if you're training them as well.
Okay. So the faculty, it's very important that for us to be like a trainer here, a facilitator is what we call it in TVET.
Okay.
You have to have, for us at ACTT, you have to have the qualification, which means some kind of degree to back it. And then you have to have industry experience.
Okay.
So it's usually hard to find someone with both. You might find, let's say, someone with a qualification and has been teaching their whole, since they finished, let's say, a plumbing degree, they've been teaching their whole lives and they don't have any industry experience. We don't like that kind of profile. And so typically we'd go for people who are in industry, years of experience. For example, the plumbing trainers, one of them is an MEP engineer, which that means mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineer. And most of his work is centered on doing this kind of work for commercial properties. So that kind of rich background allows us to give him the pedagogical training, like how to deliver the classes, how to prepare for class, how to assess, things like that. We can train the trainer and then he can take over the class, as opposed to going for someone who only understands the theory but doesn't understand the industry practice. So our maximum class size is 20. At any point in time, only 20 people are in the class for a course. And that allows us to have like special attention for each person and nobody stands idle, that sort of thing. And the number of trainers in the class, there are 2. Sorry, I think the light is back. Okay. Sorry, but I'm on the call, so let's finish first. Thank you. Okay. Oh, he didn't hear me. 1 second. If he turns on the internet.
All right, go ahead. Okay, so whilst Penelope is trying to sort out the electricity issue, let's see from the participants whether you do have any questions. If you don't and you have comments, please go ahead and put it in the chat. And as she was saying, one thing that I am really learning is the fact that she saw this gap in our educational system, the skill gap, as far as theory and practicals are concerned. And also even in the educational part, that the classes are really focused on the students to get them to get the best out of them and to really be in an excellent way of delivering the services. And the customers that I see that she's even working with is not just for the students, but the end customers and the industry. This is very fascinating, and I would love to hear your comments in here. Let me see any comments, any questions, so that we will start packing them up for Penelope to address when she comes. Tell us what you are learning. Okay, what else? So meanwhile, let's see who has joined us. We have Stella Ado joining from Accra, and she's happy here to join and learn. And also we do have Olivia, who is our chief contributor this time, saying theory, next to no hands on practical education. Very, very unfortunate for all these years in Ghanaian educational system nationwide. All right, William Duffel says, good evening, great to be here from Tema. It's been a long time, William, great to see you on the call. And let's see, Olivia. Oh, our top commentary person is Olivia. Quality of service, seriously due to lack of practical training in our educational system on all fronts. Okay, and let's see Joyce O'Day from Gumuafete and Regina from the Heritage Christian College, Perry Ofori joining from Accra, and George Godu Jr. Question. Okay, how did she get funding to start the school? Wonderful. Okay, so when Olivia comes back, not Olivia, sorry, Penelope comes back, we will address that question. And Fred says this is an inspiring story. Once a person has passion, she can make a dream come true. And Penelope has proven this to be true. Thank you for your contribution, comments, and we have only one question so far. Listen, we are getting to the top of the hour. We will have about 38 minutes, so please keep your questions coming for Penelope to address it. In the meantime, I'll ask Gideon to give us a short advert, and we'll regroup again when Penelope is back. Thank you.
For over a decade, CTL Africa Leadership has been more than a service provider. We are your dedicated partner in leadership growth, specializing in leadership development, corporate governance, strategy, culture, change management, and customer service. We focus on relational skills and personal growth essentials for effective and sustainable leadership. Our approach blends masterclasses, mastermind groups, gamified learning, and executive coaching to create impactful and engaging programs. Introducing our 2025 Corporate Development Catalog. For all heads of organizations and HR leaders, call us now to request your copy today and take your organization to the next level in 2025.
Okay, welcome back. Let's see whether Penelope is back, and I can see more comments coming. Shirley Caleb says, it's been an amazing night. Okay, how amazing has it been? Tell us, give us more details, Shirley. And Stella Addo says, very inspiring story shared. I love the fact that she identified the gap and really solving for both ends, filling jobless market with practical skills artisans. I really love her. Penelope, you are so loved. Okay, welcome back.
Oh, thank you. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
It's
I think my
fine,
next course will be how to fix them. So, how to fix them. So, I'm sorry.
Exactly. So we're waiting for that to come onto your program. All right. So there was a question that George asked. He says, how did you get funding to start the school?
That's a very good question.
Yeah.
So actually, I started funding the school with my personal savings. As I mentioned earlier, I started my career at Ashesi and then went on to work in technology, managing software projects, technology projects, national scale technology projects across the country. Then I became chief operating officer of 2 technology companies. And I also managed a construction company that was doing infrastructure projects, so like roads, classroom, schools, etc. And then finally, I left my job. So I had saved quite a bit of money that I used to do the initial work. So the first year, um, I I left my job in March. So from March 2022 all the way till May 2023, it was self-funded. I funded everything myself. And just when I had very little to survive, like when I say very little, even my my simple Netflix renewal was failing because there was no money on my card anymore and everything. We received donor funding from a US charitable organization which was looking for extraordinary leaders seeking to transform a field. So I
All right, a little bit of a challenge here, but definitely I think Penelope will be back. So just bear with us for her to come. And okay,
oh
thank
sorry.
you. Yes, yeah, there
Yeah.
was, yeah. So you
So
got a
yeah,
grant, yes,
because
from,
yeah, I got a grant funding in May 2023. So at that point, honestly, I didn't have anything to my name. So that really allowed us to hire more people, set up the necessary infrastructure, and admit our first set of trainees. Yeah.
okay, so now one thing that I would like to know, I'm curious about, is the fact that, okay, you got this funded. Are you now self-sustaining or you still get funded from outside?
Okay, so now, I mean, even funders were heavily impressed. They should, her specific words were, "We got a lot of mileage out of the money," because my strength is operations management. I know how to operate optimally, but I don't know how to raise money. So as soon as we got the funding, my entire goal as a leader was to make sure that by the time the funding ran out, we were self-sustaining. And so we are self-sustaining because people pay for fees, whether they pay themselves or they are sponsored by other people. They do pay for the training, and yeah, we're able to cover all our operational costs with the internally generated funds. However, we are actively now looking for more funding because that will allow us to offer more scholarships, expand more programs, etc. So for expansion initiatives, we do need external funding. But the current programs we're running now, the two plumbing and carpentry programs, and all our operations around that, we do not need external funding. We're self-sustaining.
Okay, wonderful. But you did mention that you're going to expand to Kumasi.
Yes.
And will that also be self-funding or you're going to have a grant? How?
We're looking for funding. Yeah, we're looking for funding, whether it's in the form of a grant programs or from a foundation. Basically, patient capital. We're not looking for your typical investor who wants quick turnaround. I think they can look to technology for that. The work we're doing is impact work, and impact work takes some time. So we'll be self-sustaining, but will not be giving you hundreds of thousands of dollars every year as equity. Yeah.
Okay. Penelope, tell me for yourself and for the faculty, how do you have continuous training for them to upskill and to meet what is going and the trends, the industry trends into
Okay,
the future?
that's
How?
also a good question. As it stands now, even the whole of this week, all the trainers were going through training. We have just recently received accreditation from the regulator, which is Commission for Technical and Vocational Education and Training, CTVET. So the whole of this week, we were undergoing training. All facilitators and even support staff that the work impacts, like the training impacts their work. For example, the admissions person needs to understand everything going on through the training, because she's the first layer. Anyone who wants to come to the institute calls her first and gets first-hand information. So all of us went through that training for a week. And then next week as well, like starting on Monday, all the trainers again have training with our partner, the Delegation of German Industry and Commerce. And that is for also pedagogical, how to deliver the training, how to do the assessment, how to achieve the practical elements that we want. Because for our programs, we do a maximum of 40% theory. We never go beyond 40. Most of our programs are 30% theory, and heavily practical focused. So in order to achieve that, we go through a lot of this training. We also have experts from Europe, mostly Germany. Every year they come by to support our program. And I myself, I go for training I've been for training in the UK, for example, in the plumbing center. So now I don't have as much time to train, but in the initial cohorts, like the first and second, I was very hands-on. Like you'd find me at the workshop during the practical sessions, learning from them and also offering insights from what I've learned here.
Okay, so now I can see that you're really moving into the leadership role,
Yeah.
that you're not working in the business, but you're working on the business.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful.
I have a whole engine behind the ACTT. Like every time someone says, "Oh, I love your work, I love you," I always say there is a team of 25 backing me to do this work. Like it's not at all me. I set the vision and where we have to get to, and then they all help me get there. Yeah.
Wonderful. Talking about the vision, I think there is a question from George who says that, let Joy join. Yeah, George says, what was your initial vision for the school and how has it evolved over the time?
This is a very good question too. In the initial, I still have the paper. I think I have it somewhere here. I might be able to even show you before the call ends.
Perfect.
The very first paper that I wrote a vision on.
Yes, that would be lovely.
Yeah, I still have it somewhere. I think I'll be able to find it before the call ends.
Okay.
So I wrote down that I wanted it to, of course, I wanted it to be a private school. I wanted it to be practice focused. But I had a limited scope of construction in my mind, right? So TVET and construction related. So I'd listed the 10, and we still find the 10 on our website, which are plumbing, welding, electrical, tiling, etc. That was the initial scope I had in mind. However, this year, after we've piloted the model for a year and a half, and we've realized what we're doing, which is that we want to provide demand-driven training. There is no point for us to do training if after the person is done, they can't find a job or people don't look for them, right? And because that's the case, we've realized that we're going to be a demand-driven skills hub. So, for example, now almost every company has to be digital. Like there's no running away from it. So whether you're a serious company like a government institution or you're Unilever or what, like if you check online these days, you see Cowbell Coffee and their social media team is dancing online and all of that. You can't get away from it. Every company must be digital. I saw a football team release a very powerful story of a gentleman, like a very young boy with special needs who went to visit, I believe it was Liverpool, and he knew every player by name. They recorded a whole thing and they put it online. So he's going around room to room and he's shaking everyone's hand and he's calling them by name and asking them questions. It was beautiful. They even took him to the pitch and things like that. So we can't do without digital now, which means there needs to be a specific program for content creation. It can't be, like since I started ACTT and a number of my friends who have started their own companies, we're looking for digital marketers or content creators. We can't find them. A lot of people apply, they come for the interview. I think when they see it looks like it's an easy job, but as part of our hiring process, you will do a practical session there and then 30 minutes. So if you say you're a content creator, you create content and immediately it shows that they can't do the work. But when you look on paper, they have a master in communications, things like that. So it means the traditional programs in marketing and communications are still training in your typical media. So like TV, radio, writing, but it's not training in digital, like taking photos, what to pay attention to, the brand, the video, graphic design, things like that. So for example, this year we're introducing content creation, which will be a full scope program, short period, another 6 months or so, where you get everything that you need out of it. And we know the demand is already there, right? So we've now transitioned more into a skills hub, demand-driven skills hub, and it's no longer a focus on construction. So if next year we realize that the biggest challenge in Africa is biomedical engineering, we're going to introduce a biomedical engineering program. If the next year we realize that the biggest problem is agribusiness, how people can add value to all the different agriculture initiatives that you're doing, instead of just producing, because the farmer himself doesn't make much money, but those who add the value, they are making the money. So if we realize that is the case and we have to go into agribusiness, we're going to go into agribusiness. So for now, there's no limited scope for us. We want to be a demand-driven skills center.
Excellent. Thank you. That is very inspiring. Joy, I hand over to you to ask your questions, you being the content creator and all that. So over to you, Joy. Just join us. Welcome.
Well, thank you so much, and happy International Women's Day to you.
International Women's Day.
to everyone listening. It's been a great day. It's been great conversations so far. I was saying, Sarah, you do so well with the interviews. Yeah. And then Penelope, we're so glad to have you. I mean, I was just, as you were talking, I was just thinking, what kind of leader are you? What kind of leadership style do you exhibit, or do you live by, or leadership principles that has got 25 people following and pushing this vision, till this date? I'm very curious to hear about that.
So I remember when we were building our our woodwork workshop. So we built them using shipping containers ourselves, our team. So we were bringing the containers on site from Tema Port, and there was we have a narrow gate to the site where we wanted to put the containers and build a workshop. There was a lot of hustle here and there, and we even ended up breaking my neighbor's wall, but which we fixed anyway. But I think when the whole thing was going on, and I saw, the team, whether they were a construction team or not, even like our training and quality assurance lead, the operations lead, everyone just there making sure that the containers can come to site so we can do the building. I teared up. Like, I was like, I can't believe, because of a vision that started, in my head some 10 years ago, now there's a team of people who have decided that they will push it forward, right? I think as a leader, I am your friend when I need to be, and I'm your boss when I need to be, and I'm your coach when I need to be. I realized this from even when I was working for other companies. I always thought I was strict, and then later on, like, I would meet someone who has left. We had both left the companies. I'll go for a meeting somewhere and I'll meet a gentleman who used to be part of my team, and he'll say, "Oh, I always thought you were difficult, but like the training you gave me helped me, this, that." And then, I then realized, okay, I think I'm doing something here. On my birthday this year, my team surprised me, and some of the messages that they were writing were very linked. You see the words, your discipline, you see the words integrity, you see the words fun. So every time we have an interview and someone says, "What kind of culture do you have here?" I don't answer that question. I leave it for them to answer, because I'm curious as to what they think the culture is. And they would say things like, we think that we have a serious environment, but we're also very fun. We take ownership of our work. There's not much room to hide behind someone in our environment. If you're doing admissions, you're doing admissions. If there are no students, it means you didn't do your job. If a student is failing, it's the facilitator directly. Like, there's not much. If, let's say, it's time for them to go for industry apprenticeship with the partner companies, and there are no companies for them to go to, we know who to hold responsible, right? So I think that's my leadership style. There was a time we were a few people at the time. I came to work and I realized my colleague had a low mood. So I made a joke, "Oh, why are you going through heartbreak?" I didn't know that's what she was going through, and she started crying. And then I told her, "You know what, if you have to take the day off, just take the day off. This was at like 10 a.m. But if you feel like if you go home and you might be alone and it will be too much as well, you can just stay here. You don't have to do anything. But at the same time, once you're well, we'll get back to work. I think that's my style. I am big on integrity. I'm big on doing what you say you do. And I'm big on having a lot of fun while doing the impactful work that we're doing. So once you come here and you engage with the staff, you realize that that culture has transitioned all the way down. Uh, some of our trainees, when they went for their internship, their employer actually set them up. We didn't know that because they wanted to hire them. So they deliberately left tools and money and things around to see whether the guys would steal. And there were two of them. And we were told that on separate occasions when they found these things, they either kept them at a safe place or they, reported them. But there was never a time where they stole the money. And at the end of the internship, they actually made them an offer. But our guys didn't take the offer because they felt they could make more money on their own. So you'd realize that the culture that we set from the beginning is trickling all the way down from staff to students. Yeah.
Beautiful.
That's amazing. And I think what you're saying also is reflecting in the culture you have built. You're living by example. So you don't really need to say you must have integrity. You live in integrity and it's affecting your students. They're going out there and they're carrying that brand with them. Sometimes people write culture statements on the wall and it's very difficult to match what they meet in the company with what's on the wall. So I think that's a very good example of leadership. But can you share with us what your key challenges as a leader is? I mean, you're young, you're beautiful, you have big vision. What's it called? Jim Collins would say you have a big, hairy, audacious dream or goals. What has been your key challenge and what can we learn from, or what have you learned from those challenges so far?
I think the major challenge in the past was getting that first funding, that first person or institutional investor who was going to say, I understand that what you're going to do is risky, but I'll take a bet on you. I think that was the biggest challenge. I am not good at fundraising because I came from like proper for-profit corporate, so I'm not used to fundraising. I was making sure that the money that the company was generating was being used well and we're operating optimally. Um, so that was a very big challenge. It took a toll on me, but eventually our funders came around and then they helped us cross that bridge. I guess one thing that I can tell anyone who's listening and who's interested in starting something is I wasn't saving because I wanted to start ACTT. I was saving because I was building a culture of financial independence. By the end of the day, that money that I saved over a while, tried some investment opportunities here and there, really allowed me to run, because at first I thought in the first 6 months I'll be able to raise funds, and then middle of 2022 Ghana's economy was really tanking a bit. So the money that I was expecting from people who had assured me they would invest in the work were all of a sudden not answering calls or anything. But because I had that money that I thought would use to finance over like myself personally for 2 years, because I knew after 2 years this thing will work out. So because I had that money, I was able to keep going until eventually the funding came through. So that was really helpful. And another thing, currently the challenge now is finding the right team. I personally sit in almost every interview, which means that takes a lot of my time. Not because I don't trust my team members, but because we have to be careful. At our stage, we don't have room to bring in the wrong person, right? At our stage, we need to be careful about who we introduce. If you don't care about our work and the impact, it's going to be really hard for you to work in like our space. So I'm always in every interview because the only thing I want to understand is your motivation. So that means, for example, digital marketing, where we've done over 80 interviews and we just finally found someone that we're trying out, which means it takes a lot of my time. And again, that comes back. I can't even complain about it because that's the problem we're trying to fix. There's a gap in the market for practice-oriented training that meets the demands of industry. And so if I can't find the talent that I'm looking for example, before you can find a good plumbing trainer, it's a problem. Before any kind of trainer you're looking for, it's a problem. There was a time that one of the public sector universities, now they call them technical universities, one of the technical universities, the entire department came for interview here and we didn't hire a single one of them. So just imagine the quality that we're expecting. So it's really hard. I think that's the biggest challenge. And as much as possible, we want to use local content. We don't want to go and bring someone from another country to do the work. We want to make sure that we train Ghanaians or Africans to do this work. So because that's what makes it hard. Yeah.
Yeah. That's really good advice, and I think that anybody who is looking to start something should take this advice. I have one very important question. Even though I have moved to the leadership side of things, this takes us a bit further to the practical work you're doing, because you've cited examples of KNUST. I went to KNUST. I did engineering. Oh my God, I can't even tell you. I can't even tell you. I mean, when we talk about practical, remember in fourth year, we had to do an industry tour, and we went to MTN's office in Accra. And half of the things they were saying were, it was like they were speaking French to us. For 4 years, and we just couldn't get it. So what kind of system are you running that is allowing you to do practical 60%? So that if there's any educator on or leaders listening to us who are either running their own educational institution or the VC of KNUST is listening, what can they do in their setup? Because like you said, they have abundance of resource, in quotes. What is the difference? Because for you, on the skill that you're doing practical training, you're giving people hands-on. Why can't KNUST do that? So maybe what you have been able to achieve, you could share that template, and then maybe someone else can pick it up.
Okay, so I think there's a bit of a challenge on the public sector front because of the numbers. When I was in my economics class, we were 225 also. There is just no way. There is just no way you can be able to achieve that kind of level of practice with 225 at scale. I mean, okay, there is a way, but it will be very costly, because it means if it's let's say the starter economics package, the software, it means 225 computers with the software on there so that people can actually run regression models and all of that. So I guess there is a way, but it's very costly, and I don't know if they want to commit to that. But how we've managed to do this is, one, like we said, we want people to be able to do their work. The good thing about TVET is it emphasizes practical competencies, not theory. You can either lay a pipe well, according to standard, or you cannot. So if they go for an interview, they don't ask them, what is a pipe? They go and they'll tell you, this is a room. Where would you put a washroom, a water closet? Where will you put a wash hand basin, this, that, and then lay it out for me, let me see. That's what their interview might look like. But you would realize that even some of the companies that we send the guys to for interviews, the HR themselves don't understand TVET. So they put them in a room and they're asking them theory questions, which is not important, right? So how we've managed to do that is we look at the entire curriculum that already exists. And then we look at what International Labour Organization, for example, says the standards are across Ghana, Nigeria, Togo, Benin. What must a plumber be able to do? An entry-level plumber must be able to do this. must be able to do Y, Z. If that's what he has to be able to, then I look at the curriculum and I see that you have to spend 1 week on preparing scaffolding. That doesn't is not important to the work that he has to do. It can be extra after he's become the plumber. He can learn that in extra curricula on his own or on site on the job training. But as at now, he can go to site, someone else can put up the scaffold for him. The scaffold is the long thing they stand on site. Someone else can assemble it for him. He'll do his work and he'll go back. But if there's a whole 1 week to do that, then you're not achieving what you want the plumber to actually do. So I believe there are too many distractions in the programs that are being run on the market. We should focus, like a plumber, if you want them to be ethical, you can't just teach ethics, but as part of your company culture, you have to introduce things that manage the ethics. If you want someone to show up to work on time, we know artisans will tell you I'll come at 8 and they might not even come at all. It can't be something that you put someone in a class and you think you've taught them for 1 week. Customer service, when you go to a customer, go at 8. If you can't go, tell them no. It means it has to be part of your culture. If the person comes to school at 8, you walk them out. If they are late and they don't send you information up front, you deal with it. If they come to work school and they're not wearing the appropriate personal protective equipment, you don't allow them to do their practical work. Once you're controlling it that way, at the end of that, because mind you, the person has spent, let's say, 16 or 30 something years of their lives behaving a certain way, and they are now in your program. And you can't just use word of mouth to change them. They might listen to you in the moment, but they'll do the other thing. They'll do otherwise, right? So it's intentional. Everything that you're training in the classroom, whether it's when it's theory, soon as they finish the theory, we limit the theory to the meat of it. And then soon as they finish, they go and do the practical. And then we imbibe it in our culture. Like everything that we're doing, whatever we want to achieve must be in the culture. So I remember when the very first cohort, which was when we were now even testing what we were doing, we'll tell them class starts at 8, sometimes 8:30, they'll come, some people will come at 9, this, that. And we had a German expert here with us, like he came from Germany to support us. And he said, one thing he told us is, you're training someone for industry. When they are working, like especially in Europe, they go in a van together to go and do work somewhere. The car leaves at 8. If the guy is not there at 8, they'll leave him. So because that's what you want to achieve, your training must mimic that. You can give some 5 minutes or something, but it has to start. So we started doing that. And one of the companies that I really respect is a plumbing company called Fico Plumbing. They take some of our guys for internship. Their work starts at 7. They don't care where you live. 7 o'clock, they're moving to project site. If you're not there at 7, the car just moves. So you realize that some of the reviews online from like our graduates, they'll tell you that they got really good training from that company, for example, because even here was 8, but there it's 7. And if you're not there, they'll leave you. And if it happens 3 times or so, I'm told you won't even continue your internship. So that's the kind of training that we're delivering. So because it's very one-on-one, it means it's like an individualized training plan. I can't apply one set of rules to all the students. It means someone might be struggling in one area and you have to start to pay attention in a way in that area, which is why you have to limit the class sizes to 20.
Excellent.
Awesome.
This is becoming so interesting, but time is also running. Time is also running out. We only have...
Maybe let me just ask this one. So when she's wrapping up, she can maybe touch a bit on how she feeds herself as a leader, how she shows up, her personal development, because you can see that something has gone into the system that some kind of she's feeding herself somewhere. We don't know where her source of coaching, training, mentorship. That's how come she's bringing out all this good stuff. But I want to say thank you for sharing with us. And International Women's Day today, the theme is about accelerating action. So I'll also, maybe in your closing remark, want you to just share something about any woman on this call, young lady who has a dream. What is that one thing they can do to put their dream into action? All right. So, Sarah, I'll leave the floor for you to wrap
Perfect,
it up.
fine. Listen, just flow with the segue that Joy has given to us. It's almost time, so give us your closing remarks and touch on the points that Joy has raised. And last
Okay.
but not the least, that I will say, how do you self-care?
Okay. It's a good question. I am constantly learning to do this, so I won't pretend to be an expert. Oh, in terms of, I think one thing that I really do, I mean, I have a Christian faith, so um, one thing that I do, for example, I don't play with my Wednesdays. My team knows that no matter the meeting you have, I go for Bible class on Wednesdays. So no matter what's going on at 6 p.m., I'm going to be out and driving to church. I don't play with that. Um, in terms of how I relax, so because we're in a new environment, it's not like we have institutions to look up to here. So we're having to make our own mistakes, learn from them, and things like that. So because we're in a new environment, and it means it comes with some kind of stress, I usually watch my favorite comedy show, those 30-minute type sitcoms in the evening before I sleep off. They help me relax and, like set my brain at ease so I can have a good sleep and then take on the challenge the following day. So I don't really do anything so special, to be honest. In terms of achieving, big dreams, I think that it's very important to surround yourself with people who believe things can be done. Because imagine I had this dream in 2014, and in 2015 I told the community at Ashesi, and they could have told me that, oh, you can't do it. But there was never a time where I spoke with someone about it and they said, you can't do this or you can't do that. It was always, write it on paper. What do you want it to look like? Put it into a business model canvas. They'll share resources with me so that I can start writing what the dream would look like. So it's important to surround yourself with people who, even if they have not done it themselves, they know what can be achieved, and then they will encourage you to. And finally, everything you want to do is so big. Like, I remember, everything, no matter how small of a dream you think you have, everything is so big. Nothing is that straightforward. So I remember, what I thought it would be at first, a center that was going to provide practice-oriented training in construction-related courses. Even at the time, I mean, I had saved money, but the money honestly was not enough to set up the kind of center that I had envisioned. So it looks so big, but one advice someone gave me early on, my other friend who has a startup in Nigeria and they've scaled across Africa. Now he said, you should consider it as a very big box. Your entire dream is like a very big cube, right? And some days you'll be able to do a big part of the cube. So let's say this is the cube. Some days you'll be able to do a very big chunk of the cube. Some days all you have to do is rest. So just a small part. And every time you keep doing small parts of it, by the time you realize this entire thing, you've achieved it. And then now you even have to dream bigger. So that's sort of how we were taking it. The first thing, because I didn't even know what it would take to set up this kind of school, I met a lawyer and he sort of gave me the framework within which I could set up this institute. So a long list of things where he knew the regulator was looking for, and on the business registration side, what he advised would be required. And so with that long list, I now took my time to take each one after the other. Some of them I would need extra hands because I didn't have money or resources to get the extra hands yet. I was doing the things that were within my scope. And as and when I had more funds to hire more people and do the extra work, we'll take them one at a time. Next thing you know, we're an accredited institution. We're training people and they're creating impact in their various ways. So it's very important not to be overwhelmed by the big picture and think it cannot be achieved. It can totally be achieved. I think I'll end by saying, I knew we were onto something, but I never thought. I was looking for someone at the time when I was fundraising. I was looking for a team that would invest in us for equity. I never thought we would receive grant funding. we received $300,000 in grant funding to do the work that we're doing in May 2023. Like, that is crazy to me. Someone who says, a family foundation that says, you're doing impactful, I think you have a big vision and I'm going to support you. But when I was in Kumasi doing national service and my national service allowance wasn't coming, never in my life did I think someone was going to send this kind of money for us to do this work one day. And I am pretty sure that's just, like the beginning of much more bigger things to come. And so I'll just encourage everyone on the call to pursue whatever dream that you have with all the boldness and all the courage that you need. It takes a lot of courage. Every time you're scared, you just have to keep going, because nobody, no one else will be there to do it for you. And eventually it pays off. I sleep very fulfilled these days, because I know just because someone came through this institute, they're doing well somewhere, and I am fine with that. Sleep very, very fulfilled. So thank you, and to all the ladies, happy International Women's Day, and have a good rest of the weekend.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much, Joy. I'll hand over to you to close us off.
Close us. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Penelope. We are so honored to have you on this 200th episode of the Leadership Platform, and also on International Women's Day. Thank you all so much for sticking with us throughout the session. I hope you learned something. I'm just seeing Emma say thank you so much for this leadership roles. It's good to be here, I think. The other comments coming through. Morgan, we see you. Abigail, and all of you who joined. It's a pleasure to have you on this platform. And we hope to see you again next week, Saturday, for another episode of the Leadership Platform. And we just want to announce that the book that we are reading together, please don't forget, leaders are readers. We're reading the 80-20 principle. The title, the author has escaped me, but we would share this on our platform, the 80-20 principle. That's the book that we are reading for the month, and Uncle Sam will come back and then do a good review for us, the 80-20 principle. All right, so that's all we have for you. Have a very good night. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and hope to see you again next week. It's bye for now.
Bye.